Good morning, everyone. I want to call the May 18th, 2021 McLeod County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good morning, everyone. Consideration of agenda items.
I have an addition for a notification, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
A continuation of ditch hearing for County Ditch 63 will be held at the McLeod County Government Center on June 2nd at 9 a.m. I'm going to add that as item F under administration. Please.
Any other additions or corrections?
Move to approve the agenda with the addition.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda items. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Consent agenda. Any additions or corrections to it? Hearing none, I'll accept.
Move to approve.
And second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. COVID-19. Sheila. You're presenting for Barrett and for yourself? Thank you.
Sorry, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Barrett's not here with us today, so I'll be giving her update. The COVID-19 numbers and statistics as of yesterday. Positive cases of COVID-19. .54 first doses and 3,548 second doses. That's a total of 8,502 doses administered. Local public health has 2 vaccination clinics scheduled for this week, Wednesday and Thursday. You can, of course, register for those online. They continue to vaccinate with Moderna, which is only for ages 18 plus. They're working with schools and other vaccine providers who have Pfizer vaccine to make plans to vaccine kids 12 plus. Again, check out our county website for more info and or to register for a clinic. The McLeod County COVID-19 vaccination statistics, as of May 15th, there have been 15,521 people in McLeod County, which is 49%, who have received their first dose, and 13,666 have received both. 16 plus ages, 62% have received at least 1 dose, 65 plus, 88% have received at least 1 dose. I probably am not one to answer many questions about that, but we do have Lori Sneguski here from Public Health.
Board, any questions for Lori or Sheila?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Thanks. So for my COVID-19 update, when you came in the building this morning, you probably saw this updated signage on the door. It's been a fast couple of days with the quick changes of the orders from the CDC and from Governor Walz's office. McLeod County adjusted the face covering requirement in county facilities effective immediately in accordance with Governor Walz's Emergency Executive Order 21-2 23, along with Minnesota Department of Health and the CDC guidelines, Center for Disease Control guidelines. This update has limited applicability in our facilities that are shared with state entities, including our courthouse and the Hutchinson Area Transportation Facility that John's team is in. Please continue to observe posted policies when visiting any of our locations. The most significant change to note, which I'm sure most of our citizens know about, is in the executive order included the removal of the requirement for face coverings in many settings. Please reference the state of Minnesota website for specific information. I, of course, am not going to read it all to you today. Social distancing guidelines appear to be maintained in that order. You see that here at our meeting, they're still being observed and throughout our facilities. Enhanced measures are permitted in the executive order, including taking actions that are more protective of the public health, but you may not take actions that are less protective of the public health. Since there are vaccination clinics on-site ongoing at the McLeod County Government Center, you will see face covering requirements in place for that setting for those individuals attending those clinics on the dates that they are held. You, of course, can still wear a face covering, but the requirement has been removed for both vaccinated and not vaccinated individuals, but it is still recommended. It is listed on our doors in those facilities. When you are at the courthouse or at HATS in Hutchinson, there are state facilities in those offices. The state has not updated their policies, and they said that they plan to do so around Thursday. That's all I have.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
Any questions for Sheila before she leaves the podium? Thank you.
Thanks.
Kevin, Emergency Management. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning. Here to briefly give you a little bit of an emergency management update, kind of what's happening. So as Sheila's reported, there's a lot of things that are starting to open up across the state and local jurisdictions as well, but really want to stress that the pandemic is not over. We are still getting cases, we're still getting deaths, and we're still being impacted, even though these restrictions are starting to open up. So just kind of let you know that. I know we've had some regional and state meetings that have kind of emphasized that as well. Just wanted to kind of briefly update what I reported was on the April 20th meeting is on the FEMA assistance for funeral assistance across the country on May 10th. As of May 10th, the agencies received more than 172,500 applications. They approved more than 2,200 of those applications and distributed nationally about $15.5 million in kind of funeral assistance. I did look up the statistics for Minnesota. In Minnesota, we've had 1,501 registrations for funeral assistance. The funeral assistance dollars that were approved were $454,310, and that includes 70 applicants across our state of Minnesota, which is the average of about $6,500 per applicant. So the money is available, the money is still there. We do have some information. I know there's been stuff posted in the media in regards to that, so they can always contact me also in emergency management to help out with that. So some of the other things we're working on, we had a meeting with Public Health and Health and Human Services last week, kind of talking about our response and recovery, and we are still in the process of discussing demobilization. We still haven't demobilized yet. We're still operating as we are. We still have our partial EOC activation in place. We're kind of monitoring kind of what's happening with this new age group that opened up between 12 and 15-year-old. So we're kind of looking at how is that going to affect us and stuff, so we don't feel it's appropriate at this time to close our EOC. So we're kind of looking at that. So those procedures and processes that we have had in place since the start of the pandemic is still in place there. One other thing that we have in place is our state of emergency. On March 24th of 2020, we did, you guys did actually declare a state of emergency for McLeod County. In that, there was some language in there that would have to be a resolution ending that state of that emergency. So we are still in a state of emergency, and we've kind of followed the guidance with the state. So the state, of course, is continuing their emergency declaration, so we're going to be continuing ours. I did in the process of drafting a resolution so that we can pass or request for a pass at a future board meeting. So we're kind of looking at that, and we'll kind of go through that approval process kind of as our EOC and public health offices kind of advise. So that is pretty much my COVID update for today.
So if If someone in McLeod County is concerned about funeral arrangements or burial arrangements, they can contact you, is that correct?
Yes, they can contact me, they can contact our funeral homes. We did share that information with our funeral homes across the county and hospitals. There's a lot of information there, so yeah, I would encourage them. If it does have to be a COVID-related death and stuff, and there are some requirements, but they're pretty basic, so.
Thank you. Any questions for Kevin from the board? Thank you, Kevin. You want to go into your next items?
Sure. Next item, we're looking to request approval to purchase 13 automated external defibrillators, or AEDs. They would actually be purchased through the Minnesota Safety Council in St. Paul. There's a total of $14,615.25 plus handling. Most of the AEDs that we have in our sheriff's office now or in our county buildings now that we're replacing are about 10 to 18 years old. So they've been there a long time. They've actually discontinued those models a few years ago, but we're still able to order batteries and pads. Well, a couple months ago we tried to order some, and lo and behold, they said they couldn't fill those orders because they didn't have any anymore. So it is time to upgrade. We're getting a $300 per unit trade-in from them, so I think it's kind of a real good appropriate to replace these 13 right now. In addition to the defibrillators themselves, we're going to be purchasing a Ready Pack, which is basically includes a carrying case and an extra set of pads. So we always like to have 2 sets of pads when we have these defibrillators. And then we're also going to purchase 9 child keys. This is a key that you can put into the defibrillator so that we can use them on kids between 1 and 8 years old. And that kind of reduces the power of that defibrillator. So, so that all is included in that price that I quoted there. So.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
And Kevin, are we on a rotation as far as replacing the AEDs annually? I'm assuming we have many more than 13 under the county's wing.
Yeah, we do have some. So these 13 ones are where we'd replace kind of right now. There is ones that we've purchased since then. Those defibrillators that are in our county buildings, a lot of our county buildings and some of their other vehicles, those are still, you know, only maybe 5 to 7 years old, so they'll have some more time. So we'll kind of rotate those through as we need. So.
Mr. Chair, move to approve the request.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Smalls to approve the request. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Luthens. Any more discussion? I do have one clarification question. Commissioner Smalls indicated a yearly. You check them yearly, but you don't replace them. What is their lifespan, or is that kind of up to the condition of the unit?
It's kind of up to the condition, you know, kind of how they're stored and treated. But most of them, you know, the ones that we're operating today, they still work. It's just we can't get supplies for them. So I think the lifespan, I don't have the exact numbers, but I would think they would probably be 10 to 15 years. So they do have quite a life cycle in them.
So you check them kind of like fire extinguishers on a whatever time limit comes up, or
Yes. We do have a what's called a Minnesota AED registry. There's a state offered website that we actually put all that information in there that keeps track of our expiration dates of our batteries and pads, where those defibrillators are located and stuff. So we have to do the ones that are like that. Yeah, we wouldn't necessarily replace them on an annual basis, but they do get checked very regularly. So.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of purchasing the new defibrillators, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Health and Human Services, Lori. Good morning, Lori.
Morning. Morning, Commissioners. So I'm here to talk about a position that we've had for a number of years with Hutchinson Health. It's now called, instead of the Public Health Liaison, it's the Health and Human Services Liaison. We are entering into our contract for 2020, or 2021, sorry. For that position, it's been funded 2/3 by Hutchinson Health and 1/3 by Public Health, and it's been a huge benefit to both entities as well as our community. We have a different arrangement with Glencoe Regional Health. They have a kind of a different model in order to help people get the services that they need in the most efficient way. Having that staff person housed at Hutchinson Health has been a key benefit to having the physicians be able to grab the liaison, have them consult with the person that's there and make sure that they get the new baby services that they need right away, or if they're needing some help in the home, to make sure that that connection happens. So it's been a huge benefit, so much so that Hutchinson Health has achieved a lot of the goals that are set for them by the state and national health commissions, by reaching the goals that they need to keep their people healthy. So we're asking for that to be approved, with the one caveat to the contract that's different than wasn't in the past, is that for COVID-related activities, public health will be paying, or Health and Human Services will be paying for 100% of her wages and benefit for those hours, versus it being a 2/3 and 1/3 time. Right now, we're using her for our vaccination clinics, so it's we'll only be using her for those when that service is needed, which it's already been winding down, so.
Lori, is there, you use the 1/3 and 2/3, is that, what is the total? Do you have a total figure on what it does actually cost?
You know, I don't have that in front of me, but that's a good question.
Is that, like everything else, is that escalating every year or two as well, or is it holding fairly steady on the cost?
I'm assuming it's the same wage increase that the rest of the staff have, yep.
Any other questions from the board for Lori?
Mr. Chair, move to approve the liaison agreement.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Wright to approve the liaison agreement. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Luthens. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Lori. Public Works, John.
Good morning.
Morning.
These next two items relate to our rehabilitation projects for this summer. State aid projects 43-602-031, 43-603-033, and 43-615-016. Those are the concrete overlays on County Roads 2, 3, and 15. The first item is to consider hiring Braun Intertech out of St. Cloud to perform concrete and possibly bituminous plant inspections on those projects for a not-to-exceed fee of $65,000. Actual fees are based on the hourly rates, individual testing rates, contractor schedule, rain, so forth. Could be most likely less. This is probably a worst case scenario for all the testing. But the estimated fee, if you look in the packet, is $54,316. The reason we put the 65 is just to give us some room. The Braun testing is for concrete plant inspection, so when they're making the concrete by Minnesota DOT specs, of course, we have to test it, and it's certified and has to meet all the requirements. Same with the bituminous testing or the blacktop. The blacktop or the bituminous is coming out of St. Cloud, I understand, so we might possibly be able to work with other inspectors that bituminous contractor is working for during that same time. The bituminous won't be coming out as much, so there'll be some loads for McLeod, some loads for possibly Stearns County or other ones. So I'm going to work with Stearns County engineers, see if they might have staff, or still waiting to hear from the contractor, the bituminous contractor, see if they might have some other, maybe MnDOT is also making bituminous out of that plant. So I do see this as kind of the extreme top end of it, but a lot of this stems from the loss of our senior technician that resigned a few weeks back. Kind of leaves us a little short in these areas. Our other technicians we have right now are inexperienced. The goal is to get them, of course, certified, and they're working on all of that, but they just need time under their belt to get that done. Remind you, these projects, approximately $6 million worth of concrete we're putting down this summer, so we definitely want good inspection, and we need good inspection for the state aid funding.
A couple of questions, John. You said they're going to haul the bituminous out of St. Cloud. Are they going to set their cement plant up down here then, or do you have?
Yeah, I believe the cement plant is going to be in the Knife River setup around that area, yeah.
And I'm a little familiar with inspections on concrete. I mean, do they sample that as well and leave the sample set there so they are able to go back and look at to make sure in case there happened to be something wrong with the product?
the plant side of it, there's material inspections for the gravel and the rock and the different aggregates in the mix that need to get aggregate or gradation testing and things. There's water cement ratios. The contractor has to meet a strict water cement ratio for durability, and for there's bonus payments for water cement ratios. So we really want to keep an eye on all that. But and then on the field side too, yeah, we make cylinders, we make beams for strength testing and all that on the field side of it.
So along with the quality control, it's kind of like a little bit of an insurance policy, so we know that we're getting what we're paying for.
Yeah, it is. The contractor does the bulk of the testing, and we're doing the quality assurance side of it. So definitely that end of it, yep. And this is no different than we've been doing this for 10, 15 years. It's been tweaked over the years, honed and got better, but this is all Minnesota DOT spec.
Any more questions for John from the board?
Mr. Chair, and John, I don't want to jump ahead, but, under item B, we're looking at, getting some help for your staff as well. Can item B reduce the amount of need through Braun as far as, some of the site inspections and such?
I think we can look at that as we get into it and see just what the MnDOT inspector can bring, and if we're comfortable, maybe toward the end of or halfway through the project, if they can, do some of the plant work. But I really, I don't want to commit too much to that, because I think we need that individual on the road watching that whole end of it, in addition to overseeing the plant a little bit, but not being able to be at the plant 100%.
And going back to some of the experience that I had in this field, I believe that maybe some of your inspectors can work underneath MnDOT inspector once you have a certified MnDOT inspector on the site?
They can get provisionalized in certain things. So we'll have our summer help get provisionalized in some of the aggregate testing, so they can do some of the aggregate side of it, which is on the field side a little bit too. So yeah, I mean, the goal of the second item B, would be for them to definitely learn under that MnDOT inspector for item B. And I was just speaking mainly to the bronze side, item A first. But
Thank you.
Any more questions for John? I mean, I don't like to go there, but I mean, we're obviously being short-staffed. We're saving some money on one end and putting it in another end, so it's.
we are, yeah. And again, we're, I mean, like I said, there's incentives that the contractor can gain with the concrete paving. If we're not on top of those, we'd be paying more money. We want to make sure that we don't get the wool pulled over our eyes and things, and if we don't have any experienced staff full-time on these jobs with the contractors we have, it's, you could.
Well, we want to make sure that we're getting what we pay for. I'd sooner
Correct.
take the hit here than have a bad road, so.
Correct. And again, I believe, I think these are conservative numbers. I think we'll come in a lot lower than these.
Mr. Chair, move to approve item A.
A motion made by Commissioner Smalls to approve item A. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Nagel. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving the Braun Intertech contract, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead to B.
Yeah, item B, so the last time we had staff that resigned and left, we did hire Braun to do the street side of it too, or on the road side. This side, for item B, we'd like to consider hiring a MnDOT engineering specialist. That's their job title, as an engineering specialist, but it's really a senior inspector. To perform the project inspection for the same jobs, not to exceed cost of $70,000. We worked with them and put together a real worst-case scenario based on hourly rates, mileage on their pickup, per diems with staying overnight, and meals and so forth. And that estimate is $66,973.58. And I think that's real conservative. I'm not going to guarantee it'll come in well under that, but I think it will. When we looked at everything, we made this. One thing with MnDOT with these agreements, you don't want to go back into amendments later on. So they come in on kind of the higher end of it. And again, as we get, as the scale, as this specialist is on the project with their staff, if there's some point we can cut them loose a little bit early, if our guys are feeling comfortable, we can sure look at that. But this individual is probably one of the top inspectors for our district. She comes with a lot of high regard, and she's a very good mentor and teacher too for our staff. And so besides just, doing the MnDOT certified inspections that we need, she will be showing them the ropes real good, I think, so.
More questions for John?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Oh, go ahead.
And John, I know that, when you get into the state and federal aid programs, the paperwork becomes enormous. I mean, you're not talking duplicates on what you're doing, you're talking triplicates and quadruplicates. So I do understand the value of having an experienced engineering technician on the job, and hopefully that would be a good investment for the up-and-coming staff that you have.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, she's already been putting together a bunch of the worksheets that we need, and that's just how she operates. So it's a good deal for us, really.
Commissioner Wright?
Mr. Chair, John, is there any type of warranty or what happens after the project a year later? Some of these roads that don't turn out?
Yeah, not necessarily for these road projects. I mean, we build them, we try to build them the specifications and everything, but, concrete's going to crack once in a while. You get anomalies in the, some settlements maybe. We've seen some cracking on just overlays we've done, 4 years ago a little bit. But there's no warranty built in for an official type of warranty for that. We can go back on some negligent stuff, but it's real hard to prove, I think, if we go back and look at all that when we've built them to, the spec book and everything.
John, no warranty per se. I wouldn't want to have to answer that question either. But that there is, by doing this testing though, I've had some experience with this, you have specs to go back to and make sure they use the proper ingredients, lack of a better word,
Absolutely,
in
yeah.
their concrete and their mixes with their, so that isn't necessarily a warranty, but it is proof that we've got what they're supposed to.
It's all the quality assurance to prove they've been building everything to the plans and specifications that we laid out, yeah.
And I don't like it, I don't like it any better than anyone else, but I don't know, that's the cards they deal us, and we got to play by them. And I go back to the, we're short the senior technicians, so we are not paying that, so we are saving, we're
Yeah.
recouping some of the money there, so that's all I really
And
got.
I'll tell you also, a good inspector too will catch, they'll catch stuff on, not that all our contractors are trying to pull things on us, right? But they're, a good inspector, I think, is worth their value when you see things on the road that aren't necessarily going in the right way, and, they catch that.
Well, there's so many new people working, you got to leave some options for, to catch the errors before they affect you, so.
Yeah. I'll add that this engineering is eligible for state aid funds and for the lost money, which is what these are funded by, so.
Mr. Chair, end of the day, we have to have this inspection process completed, so I'll move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Wright to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Schmalz. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, just a quick update on those projects. We have a pre-construction meeting tomorrow with the contractor for these projects, and their schedule that they've submitted so far shows them closing the roads on Monday. So we'll get an update tomorrow and then get a news release out to folks, and a letter to, I think we'll send a letter to those living along with all three jobs, so.
Yep.
Sooner the better. As soon as they get here, the rain will start.
It will, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
John, before you leave the podium, Mr. Chair, how far along are we with County Road 16 overlay?
Yep, so that finished up yesterday. They got rained out last Friday, finished up yesterday. We're looking at, I'm hoping we can get it striped this week. And then our maintenance forces, our own guys, are going to do a little bit of shouldering out there. We've done some in the curves. I don't know if you've driven it a little bit. They were a little bit steep in some of the curves right off of 7, but our own forces will be shouldering that, I'm guessing, next week sometime.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, John. Employee Relations, Hannah. Good morning, Hannah.
Morning. Good morning. A few items this morning. Item A, consider approval of unpaid personal leave from June 4th, 2021 through June 3rd, 2022 for a current Health and Human Services employee. This leave was reviewed by Health and Human Services Director Barrett Spores and complies with the requirements of personal leave within the McLeod County Personnel Policy. Just a little excerpt from the personnel policy for those of us that maybe aren't as familiar. For justifiable reasons, McLeod County may allow a personal leave in order to preserve the employee's status as a public employee and benefit rights under applicable retirement programs. The employee shall not accrue vacation and sick leave during a personal leave, and this leave is to be used after vacation, sick leave, and all comp time balances have been exhausted, which they have been for this employee. And any absence of more than 30 days and less than 1 year must be approved in advance by the county board.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
on the Personnel Committee side, and Sheila or Hannah, feel free to interrupt me or jump in, we really went over this, and we really talked about everything on what qualifies and doesn't, and I don't want to say too much because I don't know things that I can say regarding the leave, but if it's worth anything to you, we really discussed this in great detail throughout that. So Sheila, anything to add?
Sure, thanks. I think it's important that when it meets the business need for the county and we can make a reasonable accommodation for someone, that we do that. It's a difficult time right now to staff our health and human service positions and to have skilled labor force, right? So we have, like Commissioner Nagel said, reviewed this very carefully and tried to help Hannah along without us knowing too many details, because sometimes we don't need all of those details, and I think you've done a good job. Thank you.
Any more questions for Hannah? I do have a comment. I feel, I do also know that it's been carefully considered and it's being watched, and that's the main thing. It's not something that we're forgetting about for a while. It's being watched and managed correctly, in my opinions.
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Nagel to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Smalls. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
So to follow up with that, I'm considering approval to backfill one full-time health and human services position due to the personal leave just approved from June 2021 through June 2022.
Again, Mr. Chair, very carefully analyzed, so I'd move to approve.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Nagel to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Wright. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D.
Item C,
Sorry.
that's okay. Item C, I did have, there's more information in the packet, and have had the opportunity to speak with most of you about this. We're considering adding consider adding one budget-neutral, revenue-generating, part-time, 28-hour social worker position within the Long-Term Care and Developmental Disabilities Unit, or LTCD, DD, in Health and Human Services. This request really comes down to a response to community need. As the baby boomer population is aging, McLeod County is experiencing a consistent increase in new referrals and ongoing cases for the over 65 population, alternative care, elderly waiver, and medical assistance waiver cases. I wanted to add as well, there's a shift that's happening right now because of COVID. There were waivers to not see folks in person, but now as those waivers, so we've been able to maintain a high number of those cases with the staff we've had. But now those waivers are leaving and we're starting to do in-person. These numbers we're not going to be able to maintain with our current staff. This 28-hour position will support itself with revenue from case management, which is expecting 60 to 72 units per client at $25.46 a unit. Licensing fees from providers at $500 for 15 relicensures per year. and then long-term services and supports, LTSS, funding at approximately $1,900 to $2,800 per year, or per staff per year. The above role, as anticipated revenue, would result in the position not only being budget neutral, but potentially generating approximately $350 a year while supporting a full caseload.
Any questions for him?
We do have the Angie Nelson here, the social services supervisor, who directly supervises this team, if there are some more questions you have about the role.
I actually have a question. Is this, being it's a 28-hour position, is that what we have decided or managed that we need, or is that the easiest type of people to hire? I mean, I don't know if that's a question, but
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and we researched it quite deeply before requesting this, and the 28 is what we need for this position. It also keeps us under the 30 hours where we would have to provide benefits, or it would be a benefit position. So yeah, it's 28 hours is what we've come to realize would be very helpful.
any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I just want to point out, I seem to be talking about all these, sorry, Hannah, but I just want to point out, I don't think it's a policy, but it's kind of an unwritten rule that we don't want to add people throughout the middle of the year, right? Because we have found that problematic, and those requests are difficult to deal with once a year, let alone all year long. But I was, and I think the rest of the committee was convinced that this one made sense this time, that it did a nice job coming in with the details and justifying it, and honestly still almost didn't get it, but because of that reason. But I want to point out that I think that's important that we continue that practice whenever possible, but, there are exceptions. So I would move to approve.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Nagel to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Smalls. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it. Last item for this morning, consider increasing a part-time accountant technician from 14 hours to 28 hours per week. The budget impact for this increase is anticipated to be $14,586.28. This position directly supports the finance director. This 14-hour technician position is currently vacant due to a recent resignation, but I will note in 2020, this position was a 40-hour per week position. McLeod County was able to retain a very skilled employee by decreasing their hours to 14 hours a week, and then through efficiencies, the finance division is not requesting the position go back to full-time hours, but maintain a 28-hour position.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I know I've spoken to a couple of the commissioners about this, but this is a really important request. And like Commissioner Nagel said, we don't like to bring things up mid-year. You see an ad here for this $14,000, but really the county has been saving money by having this previous employee work for us for some time for the 14 hours. And I can assure you that that employee, just with their high skill level and high efficiency and being a hard worker, has completed things that some people would not be able to complete in almost double the time. And we've seen that with her. We appreciate her. She is sad to leave here. However, she took a position with the state of Minnesota, and it's a conflict of interest for her to continue working here. So she needs to move on in her career. A lot of our accounting and finance positions are not the higher level finance and accounting positions that are out there in the state positions or in private industry for people to attain. And that has been when people are leaving here, is to get a promoted position that we don't have at McLeod County. So they have enjoyed working here on Colleen's team. We have a high need right now in that department for some assistance. So this was not avoidable. And I tell you all of that because going to 28 hours will be good and helpful. But please recall that before that was 2 full-time positions and the full-time person supervising them. There's a chance we may have to come back and ask for it to go back to 40. We're going to do our best to accomplish this in 28 hours per week, but I don't want to give you false hope that it just may not be enough.
Sheila.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. I mean, and that's where numbers are the heartbeat of everything right here. I mean, and it's a pretty important position, and I just wanted to make sure that it was weighed out on whether we can get by on the part-time versus full-time. But I think you explained it to me. Is there any other questions from the board?
Move to approve.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Wright to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Nagel. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Before you leave the podium, I'm just going to jump on a little bit of a soapbox for a second. I mean, this hiring is really become, I just think the public needs to know this. I'm on several organizations plus on the county board. We're having real problems getting people, qualified people in and keeping them to work 40 hours. I mean, it's just, I thought I heard every excuse in the book, and I don't mean to use excuse frivolously, but that they won't work or want to work certain hours that don't fit in. And I'm learning new ones every day. And I know there's good people out there, and I hope we're working towards attracting these people. But
Mr. Chair, I
ahead.
just want to add, I know that you're on several boards as well, and that some of those staffing issues are happening at
Right.
places that the county works with. We have great employees at our county, and we've worked really hard to maintain that staff. We want them to have great people to work with. So when Hannah and myself and others, all the department heads are recruiting, it is very important to maintain a good environment for everyone so that people like to work here, and we want that. So if you're watching and you're looking for a job, we do like to have good people join the good people that we already have, and we encourage you to look. We're trying some new recruiting methods, changing up how we're attracting people, and we respect too that the job of the five up here is always to watch the budget, and we support that as well. So thank you for listening to the detail and going through this with us.
Right, thank you. And the reason I bring it up is because I get a number of people that contact me or talk with me, and they're under a false impression of how easy it is to get rid of somebody and hire someone. It's not. It keeps us awake at night. This is not good. And I mean, I'm not talking about McLeod County. I'm talking, statewide. That's pretty much what it concerns us, nationwide as well. But I just want to make people aware it's not as easy as some may think. And we're forced to hire certain people for certain jobs with certain qualifications, and it's tough to do.
And just to Sheila's point, we have awesome employees, and yes, we're seeing some resignations and some challenges. And just a couple, even the last 24 hours, we have had 2 acceptances of some highly qualified folks who are moving to our community to work in McLeod County, which is also exciting. So it's all the things at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
County Administration, review of calendars. Darrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Go back to May 4th, county workshop meeting. In the afternoon, a couple commissioners and I went over to 212 groundbreaking. Pretty interesting. A lot of people from the state legislatures and county commissioners were there. It's a great milestone to get that going, 212. Thursday, the 6th, Prime West Zoom meeting. The 10th, MRC Zoom meeting. Talked about wild game processing animals and putting some limits there, and quite interesting. On the 12th, Wednesday, Pact for Family Zoom meeting. Early childhood. They had a guest speaker, quite interesting, I thought, Dr. Meyer, on humans need belonging. So kind of like we're talking about here with personnel, finding a home that they're happy with. In the afternoon, we had Children Local Advisory Board. On the 13th, CHB Zoom meeting. And then the 14th, SMAM's AC Zoom meeting. There's 35 people that attended that meeting out of 18 counties, so it's kind of a big board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. After our last board meeting, we had our workshop. Last week, department head meeting. Shortly after that, we had an administrative meeting dealing with the burning ordinance that'll be coming up in the following weeks. And then a presentation from the 80 Advantage group. We were able to view kind of that final presentation, start to make tweaks as we're looking forward to getting that wrapped up, presented, and on its way. 13th, we had interviews for our new position of economic director spot, and that's definitely headed in the right direction. Friday, a budget meeting. And through all that, there's been a number of phone calls and inquiries on some of the ditch projects in my district. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Rada. I guess some of it was covered here. I also attended the groundbreaking for 212 after our last meeting. It's really exciting to see it go. They're moving there, and they're going to continue to work on phase 2 now. Obviously, there was some bids that came in lower than expected, and hopefully there's some carryover money that can go into phase 2, and that's going to take a little work because the departments always want their money back and then reallocate money. So we're working on that. Anybody can contact their local representatives or state representatives and let them know how important 212 is. It's really important.
Mr. Chair, your microphone's not on.
Thank you. That's fine. No, it's not fine. I knew when I shut it off, I'd forget to put it back on, but that's how it goes. Hi. Anyway, 212 is so important for McLeod County especially, but it carries on all the way out to South Dakota or even into South Dakota, Sibley counties, Renville County. There's so much economic benefit to that road. Talking about some of the other problems we have, it might not seem relevant, but in today's world, the young people don't mind driving to a place that has good quality living and good roads. But so I'm really excited about trying to move into that phase 2. And as Commissioner Wright alluded to, we had some a pre-final prep from Addie on our economic development, and I'm equally as excited about that. That's usually not my cup of tea, but again, I said once before, you deal the cards that you get. I think it's going to be something that we have to fine-tune and get out, especially for McLeod County and our economic development. I'll move right into the interviews. We're interviewing some directors for that, and I think, and I'm praying that it's a hopeful tool to make McLeod County a better place. And other than doing some phone calls, some ditch work, some other projects that are Trailblazer and a few other issues with labor agenda review, here I am today. Thanks. Commissioner Nagel.
Real quick for me, some NACO phone calls that were scheduled. The workshop was talked about. Personnel committee, I talked enough about throughout the votes. And a budget committee meeting that will be discussed in future board meetings. So, that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, since our last board meeting, we all attended a workshop, and then that afternoon I attended the 212 groundbreaking ceremony along with Commissioners Kruger and Luthens. I'd like to thank, I believe it was Commissioner Kruger for arranging the bus transportation for us for that event. I believe we had 4 community leaders attending from Glencoe. We had 3 commissioners. We had John, Public Works Director, attending, and I believe we had Michelle Fishbach's aide attending on that bus ride as well. I don't believe I've left anyone out on that list. Really happy to see it proceeding. You can tell by being there how important 212 is and what a milestone it is for Carver, especially Carver County, and on how long they've struggled to get this to the point where it is today. Friday the 7th, Joe and I had a labor negotiations meeting here, by Zoom, that I took part of. Into the next week, on Thursday the 13th, we had a CHS meeting by Zoom in the morning, and following that CHS meeting, we also did a little a training session as well. And on the 14th, I had Central Minnesota Jobs and Training meeting by Zoom in the morning, and that afternoon, once again, another labor negotiations meeting was held by Zoom, which brings us to today, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I actually forgot, and I appreciate that you gave that excellent summary of Trailblazer. We have a PR account that we could use some money out of to be able to take it down there. It was like a roaming billboard for us. We've been negotiating with Carver County anyway on some transit, so I was really proud to have our people there with the Trailblazer bus right in front, so appreciate that. Thanks. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
on the 212, are they going to reroute the 212 around where it is today?
John,
The second phase?
the second phase. The second phase will be a problem. First phase, now most of that road's new, so the old road will stay in. But the second phase, they'll be combining, and that's a lot of work to do on it yet, but it's moving fairly fast. But that road will be detoured. That'll be a little bit more of a headache than this other one, because the old road on phase one pretty much stays, so traffic will be able to stay on that one.
Mr. Chair, we could ask BNDOT for an update too
Sure.
to share with the public at the next meeting. Would you like that?
I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
We can do that. Maybe it will just be a written statement, but so that we have a good
That'd be
summary.
fine.
I just heard that 12 was closed now for the rest of the year or summer.
There's a lot of catch-up on obviously some money appeared for transportation, so everybody's trying to utilize it in the best places, and they're all west side of the metropolitan area is in great need of improvements, so go ahead, Shu.
Thank you. Just making myself a note for that update. Under County Administration, item A, consider approval of the agreement of dissolution for the High Island Creek Watershed Evaluation Project Joint Powers Entity. This includes ourselves, County of Renville, County of Sibley. The Rush River and High Island Creek Joint Powers met on April 28, 2021. They voted to dissolve the High Island Creek Watershed Evaluation Project Joint Powers, as there is currently no grant funding associated with these joint powers. The group voted to distribute remaining funds to all contributing entities according to their percentage of contribution, with no funds due to McLeod County. This dissolution does not involve the Lower Minnesota River West Comprehensive Watershed Management Partnership and the ongoing efforts to complete the One Watershed One plan.
Sheila, thank you. I'll comment on that, being I sit on that committee as well, and we weren't really doing anything. A couple questions. One Watershed One plan is taking over all the things that we were really doing as an organization, plus it was pretty much all grant-driven. There was very little put in from the counties, and the other question is, why didn't we get any money back? Because we didn't have any in. And any of the money that was left there was just a no-brainer to put it back at the same percentage of the entities that put in. There was Gibbon, Winthrop, different communities that had put in a certain amount of money for a certain project, and that's the balance of that was left, and we paid it out the same way. I believe Attorney Young, you looked at it, and you kind of gave your thumbs up to that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sheila. Is there any questions
need to
at all? One Watershed, One plan, there's a lot of same. They have some issues with employment as well. Their SWCD, there was a lot of change of hands, and I'm not going to say that because we stole one or two of their employees, so it's to our benefit. But at any rate, I'm confident that any of these projects will be taken care of the way they should be, so.
You need a motion, Mr. Chair?
No, I don't,
Yes, we do.
we do need a motion, okay.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Nagel. Seconded by Commissioner Luthens. Any more discussion?
Yes, what you're approving here is the agreement for dissolution of the joint powers entity. And that's in your packet.
And it's something basic to what we did with the North Fork as well. Is that right?
I have no idea what you did with the North Fork, but this makes sense here.
All right, very good.
And note that Sibley, Renville, and McLeod all have to sign off on the dissolution agreement for it to pass.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item
Thank
B.
you. Item B, notification of meeting to discuss commercial property value changes with commercial property owners in the city of Hutchinson to be held at the commercial building of the McLeod County Fairgrounds, 840 Century Avenue Southwest, Hutchinson, Minnesota, on May 20, 2021 at 4:00 p.m. Item C, notification of board workshop to be held following the board meeting on June 1, 2021 at the McLeod County Government Center here at 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota. Item D, notification of public hearing on June 15, 2021 at 4:45 p.m. at the McLeod County Government Center, 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota, to discuss a proposed McLeod County open burning ordinance. Item E, notification that the board workshop following today's board meeting on May 18, 2021 will not occur due to lack of topics to be discussed. And added item F from the beginning. Connie did send me an update. As stated, this is a continuation meeting, so notification is not required, so you may not see it in the future for continuations for ditch hearings, but notification of the continuation of McLeod Drainage Authority public hearing of County Ditch 63. The Drainage Authority will hear public comments on engineer's repair report, repairs to the system, and consider bids received at the McLeod County Government Center, Martin McLeod Boardroom, 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota, on Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021 at 9:00 a.m. I have nothing to add.
Thank you. That brings us to the end unless someone has anything that needs to come before the board. Hearing none, open forum. Anyone wish to address the board?
You've got a nice room here, meeting room. That's what I think. Because I can hear you guys a lot better.
Thank you, Councilman.
And keep up the good work, too.
You know, when Doug turns his mic on, it's even easier.
I had to look again.
I just was glad you didn't start over.
I'll
Mr.
remember
Chair?
that.
I know you will. I deserve it.
Go ahead, Sheila.
There is a chance that we would need to open the meeting back after the closed meeting. Just letting people know since they would leave for that portion.
Karen, did you hear that? I mean, it's probably a good chance we'll open it.
And there will
Karen, do you have
likely be
anything?
action taken after the closed meeting, and I would guess that the closed meeting would be 20 to 30 minutes.
Karen, do you have anything else for us? Thank you.
Move to go into closed session.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Nagel, go into closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Luthens. Any discussion? Hearing none. We'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We'll move into closed session.
6th Street South, Winston, Minnesota, 55395. Central Region Cooperative is seeking to hire a full-time mechanic at its maintenance shop in Buffalo Lake. Candidates must have a thorough understanding of diesel mechanics and prior truck and equipment experience. Qualified candidates must have a Class A CDL with tanker and hazmat endorsements and must have or be able to obtain DOT certification.